In this recording, we're going to take a further look at solving literal equations and putting things in function form, but also looking at formulas that are commonly used in mathematics. Our first example is to solve a equals 1/2 bh for h. So this isn't a function form type of equation. This is a formula. This is for the area of a triangle. So a stands for area equals 1/2, b stands for base, and h stands for height. So it says solve for h. So just like before, we're going to put a little box around the h term and take a look. Everything is connected to it. So the one thing we're going to do, and we learned this before, let's say we had an equation before. Let me change that up. Say we had 6 equals, 1/3 x plus, we'll just leave it at that. How do we get rid of that fraction? Because everything here is strung together with multiplication, that's the step we're undoing. And we're going to take a look at the fraction first. We learned before that we can multiply by the reciprocal of the fraction. And that's what we're going to do in this equation. So I'm going to just rewrite it again. Give myself some space here. So we're going to go ahead and multiply this whole side by 2/1. And this whole side by 2/1. We're really just multiplying by 2 on both sides. I'm going to put my line down, my equal sign. 2/1 times a is just 2a equals. My 2/1 and my 1/2, they cancel each other out because they're reciprocals. When you multiply them, they're equivalent to 1. And just like over here on the left side, we don't need the 1. We don't need the 1 over here either. So now we're left with b times h. Again, we're looking for the h to be all by itself. So how would I get rid of that b? In between the b and the h is, again, that invisible multiplication dot. So we're going to divide this whole thing by h on both sides. Now, there's no simplifying that I can do on the left side. So we have 2a over h is equal to, on the right side, my h's cancel out, and I'm left with b. Oh my, did I solve for the right variable? What did it ask me to solve for? Oh, take a look back at your question. It says solve for h. This is a mistake I see time and time again with students, is that we just solve for the wrong variable. So let's go back a step. What should we have done here? Let's go back. What should we have been dividing by? We're solving for h. We should be dividing by b on both sides. Always go back and check. So now on the left side, I have 2a over b. And on the right side, my b's cancel out, and I'm left with h. So now we have solved our equation for h, for height. If I'm looking for the height, I can say 2 times the full area divided by the base gives me the height. Next one. This says write a formula for converting Celsius to Fahrenheit. I have an equation here that converts Fahrenheit to Celsius. C equals 5/9 parentheses Fahrenheit for F minus 32. Well, I'm being asked to solve for F in this equation. And just like our last example, it's blocked in there in the parentheses. So I can't break up the parentheses until I get rid of the coefficient. So I'm going to rewrite it, give myself some space here. So I've got to get rid of my coefficient, which is 5/9. How do I do that? I multiply with the reciprocal on both sides. So I'm going to multiply by 9/5 here. If I multiply by 9/5 on the right side, I have to multiply by 9/5 on the left side. So on the left side, I have 9/5 c equals, on the right side, my reciprocals cancel out, And because they cancel out and I'm just left with parentheses f minus 32, my parentheses are gone. I don't need them to show grouping. So again, I want f all by itself, so I'm going to go ahead and add 32 to both sides. So I'm going to go ahead and write 9/5 C just plus 32 equals F for Fahrenheit. Now I have an equation solved for Fahrenheit. And this way, if I'm given a degree in Celsius, I can plug it into this new equation and calculate, and it'll give me my answer in degrees Fahrenheit. Let's take a look at the next three. It says solve for W. Volume equals length times width times height. That's this one. So I want to solve for the width. So let's see, in between the L, the W, and the H, it's all blocked with multiplication. So how do we undo multiplication? We divide. So I'm going to divide, but I'm going to divide with both the L and the H. I'm going to make my L cursive there so it doesn't look like a 1. But I'm going to do that on both sides. Divide by length and height in one step. So I get volume over length times height equals, and my length cancels out and my height cancels out, and I'm left with the width. So we did that in one step. Let's take a look at H. H says solve for H. S equals 2b plus pH. This is a formula for surface area equals 2 times the area of the base plus the perimeter times the height. So let's see, we've got to solve for H here. I'm going to go ahead and put a box around my H term. It's stuck with the P, so I'm going to get rid of everything else. I'm going to draw my line down. I'm going to subtract 2b on both sides. And I'm going to rewrite that as S minus 2b equals pH. Again, I'm looking for the H to be all by itself, but it's attached to P with multiplication. So I'm going to go ahead and divide by P on both sides. My P's on the right cancel out, and on the left, I'm left with S minus 2b divided by P equals H. Our next one says solve for H, so it's again height. And this is for the area of a trapezoid, and I have the image of a trapezoid here. B1, the 1 stands for base 1. That happens to be at the top. B2 stands for base 2. Those are bases, they're parallel to each other. The H is the height, the distance between these two parallel bases. So we have area equals 1/2 height, parentheses, base 1 plus base 2. It says solve for H. So we're going to go ahead and take a look at this one when we solve for H. And I'm going to write this down at the bottom here in blue. Area equals 1/2 H, parentheses, B1 plus B2. I need to solve, again, what am I solving for? I'm solving for H. Always double check you know what you're solving for. The H is being strung together with the parentheses through multiplication and with the half. So in order to get rid of at least the half part, we're going to go ahead and multiply by the reciprocal on both sides. The reciprocal of 1/2 is 2. So I'm going to multiply by 2 over here, and I'm going to multiply by 2 over there. Or really, it's 2 over 1, if you prefer. On the left side, I've got 2 over 1 times A. Well, that's just 2A. I don't need the 1 there, so I'm not going to write it. On the right side, my 2 cancels with the 2, the 1 cancels with the 1 because they're reciprocals. We're left with h parentheses b1 plus b2. Now we're not being asked to break the parentheses up because we're being asked to solve for h. So again, in between h and the parentheses is that invisible multiplication dot. So in order to solve this, I'm going to divide. And we're going to divide by the whole grouping with the parentheses. We're going to divide by b1 plus b2. And we're going to do that on both sides. And simplify. On the right side, my b1 plus b2 in parenthesis group, that cancels each other out. On the left side, I have 2a over b1 plus b2 equals h. You might also see it this way, 2a over and without the parentheses, b1 plus b2 equals h. That would be okay as well, because the bottom of the fraction is already a symbol of grouping when you have an expression in there. Now what did we do? We just took an equation that was solved for area and manipulated it so it's now solved for h. So if I go back to my picture, maybe I'm given the area. Maybe I'm given each of the bases and I'm asked to find h. Now, do you want to go ahead and plug all those values into your original equation and then solve? Probably not. You'd probably want to just go ahead and plug everything in here. So let's say my area was 30. I'm going to say my area is 30. I'm making this up. And that the first base was, let's say, 4. And the second base was 8. Nope. No, you know what? Let me change that. Let's make the second base 16. Like that. And this is going to give me the height of my shape. Now it's just to simplify. 2 times 30 is 60. 4 plus 16 is 20. 20 divided by 60 is 3. The height of my trapezoid is 3. Again, I just made that example up and threw in my own numbers here. But maybe they told me the area was 30, B1 was 4, and B2 was 16. Okay, I didn't know the height. I was asked to solve for the height. So instead of plugging it in back into my original equation up here, this one, where I had to manipulate to solve for the height, I've already manipulated the equation. And now I just plug in the numbers into my expression and my equation up here to get what the height is equal to. Knowing how to solve a literal equation or a formula for a different variable can be very helpful.